Hi everyone, welcome to the Audit and Attestation section of the US CPA exam. If you see the complete overview of Audit and Attestation exam, it is being divided into 4 parts. First and the foremost important part is ethics, professional responsibility and journal principle. That will be around 15 to 20% of your US CPA Audit and Attestation exam. Second important part, if you see, is assessing the risk and developing the response to those assessed risks. That will be around 25% to 35% of your audit and attestation exam. Third part, if you see, is performing further audit procedure and obtaining evidence. So that will be around 30 to 40% of the CPA audit attestation exam. And the fourth and the last, or you can say most important one, is forming conclusion and reporting on audit and attestation based on all procedure you have performed. So that will be around 10 to 20% of the CPA exam. So if you see, in this series of the overview chapter, we'll be covering all section one by one in details. And then if you see, going forward, in each and every video which we'll be sharing with you, we'll be covering each and every topic more in detail for your ready reference. So let's dive into. Hi everyone and welcome to the Audit and Attestation batch. In this entire section of Audit and Attestation, we'll be learning in details about like couple of deep audit concept which is being coming in your CPA examination, right? So in this today's session would be break up into 3 things. One, like complete overview, what is being coming and covered in the audit section, entire audit section. And then second, we'll be investing some amount of time what is being actually tested in the examination. So what skill set they test, what kind of exam come, what are the multiple choice question, how many numbers of multiple choice question in each testlet, and how many task based simulation come, what are the research based simulations. So I'll be walking you through the complete overview from the exam standpoint of view, how this exam will actually come. And then we start like chapter 2, which is ethics and professional responsibility. But before jumping into like entire audit section, I have list down couple of, you can say, key concept or definition which is being required for you to understand first. Then it would be easy for each one of you to digest the entire audit section, right? So today we'll be covering first the complete overview of the audit section of exam. Then second, we'll be covering the overview of the examination. And third, we'll be covering the key items or key definition, or you can say key topics which you should be understanding first before jumping into the audit section, right? So can you all see my screen comfortably on the online? Right, cool. So first we are starting with the entire section of audit and attestation, right? It is being divided into 5 chapters. First one is the overview of audit and attestation examination, right? This will be going to cover today, in which, like I said, I'll be taking you through the entire examination section, how this audit and attestation exam actually work, right? And then second chapter is more about ethics, professional responsibility and journal principle. So this would be around like 15 to 25% of your examination. So this is very much important topic or important section for your examination purpose, right? And then third chapter you have is assessing the risk and developing a planned response to those risks. So this is more of like planning side of the audit. First we understand all the ethics and professional responsibility as a CPA, which is being required for each one of us once we qualified and start doing the attestation work, audit work, accounting work or taxation work. So there are all those principles, or you can say rules and regulation applicable to the CPA would be covered in the chapter 1, right? And then in second chapter we'll be jumping into more in planning section of the audit, where like assessing the risk, developing the plan, response to those risks, like overall your engagement planning, right? So what all audit procedure you need to perform, so that will be covering in chapter 3. This is around 25 to 35% of your examination. So this chapter is very, very important. So almost you can say average 30% of your exam will be coming from this chapter, right? And then fourth chapter, if you see, is performing further procedure and obtaining the evidence. Further procedure means like audit procedure and obtaining the evidence for the audit procedure. So this is the most important section, and to be very honest, this is very easiest section as well. Planning part would be slightly difficult and conclusion part would be slightly difficult, but if you see third chapter and fourth chapter, they are very much important and are very much easy to understand, easy to digest the concept, and easy to respond those multiple choice question and simulation which will be coming in your exam, right? And then last chapter, as you know, like when you are concluding the audit, you have done the planning section, you have done the execution section, right? You have obtained all the evidence. Now it's time to conclude your audit, right? Here you will be concluding the audit and issuing the report. So different kind of reports, different kind of structure of those report, all those things will be covering in chapter 5, right? So today we'll be going into one by one high level overview of each section mentioned over here. So that means whatsoever would be coming in audit section of your exam, so here in next 1 hour you'll be getting a complete overview, so that you have a broader idea what is being coming in the exam, and when we will be starting the deep into the respective chapter, you know from where section and which section or which chapter it would be coming. You know, like in some time people get confused from where this actually coming, right? Then it would be easy for you to understand and digest, like you can link it from which respective chapter and which section later on, right? So let's first jump into the chapter 1 we'll be covering in detail, but let's jump into chapter 2 overview, which is ethics, professional responsibility and journal principle, right? Here we'll be covering first of all nature and scope. Nature and scope means like what all type of engagements you will be having, right? What would be the nature of those engagement, and what all the scope as a CPA we would be having for those engagement, right? First section if you see is the audit engagement, right? Audit engagement could be of different type of audit engagement. One, it would be audit of financial statement, right? Second, it could be audit of internal controls. Third, it could be mixed, which is like financial statement as well as internal audit, both, right? Fourth, it can be an attestation engagement, which include like examination engagement, which can include limited review engagement, right? Which can include like AUP, agreed upon procedures engagement, right? And so these all would be covered, like here in this chapter 2 we'll be covering the respective nature, what kind of engagement they are, and what are the scope of a CPA for those respective engagement, right? Then second point, if you see engagement conduct under the governmental accounting office of the government auditing standard. So here the governmental accountability office, they issue the government auditing standard. So when you in future you will be doing the government audits, you need to follow government audit standard issued by the government accountability office, right? So here for these standard would be for, you can say, government companies, government entities, government you can say offices, and in addition to that wherever the government has given any grant, or you can say given any financial assistance and financial support to an NGO, to an association, to a society, to a company, to a trust, right? Whosoever is doing like not-for-profit organization would have received some government grants, government funding, government financial assistance to those funds. When you are doing the audit of those funds, you will be using the governmental auditing standard, not the GAAP, not the GAAS, right? You will be using governmental auditing standard. Next one is other engagement. Other engagement, like sometime the engagement is being required to comply with certain law and regulation. Like in India, we do tax audit in compliance with the income tax office, right? Same way in US also, there are certain requirement when you go for a funding. So then probably your investor would be required, right? And they want in certain specific format. For example, it's a global investor and you are following US GAAP, but they want the financial statement to be audited in IFRS, right? That they can specify you in this financial statement framework, we would be requiring the financial statement, right? Second way, maybe like sometime when you are applying for government grant. So government also have certain format in which they require financial information. right? That also required to be audited by CPA. So in that case, you will be using those specific format and guidelines required by those respective laws and regulations. So those all comes under the other engagement, right?